Welcome to the Short Funk Podcast. I'm Tom Barbalet, and today I think I might be one of the last nerds to actually see the Star Wars movie. If you've not seen Star Wars, stop listening to this podcast right now. I've got plenty of other podcasts. Go and explore some of the Biota Lives if you want to. They're long podcasts. Forget this short format. But for those that have seen the Star Wars movie, I realise that it's now a completely different franchise. Truth be told, I've never really been like a nerd in the American sense associated with obsessions with these franchises. I had various Star Wars figures as a kid. I don't think the films were particularly good. I think that's been reinforced now I've seen J.J. Abrams' interpretation of the Star Wars universe, that ultimately George Lucas was just a bit of a North Californian, can't really use the terms I'd want to use, even though I've used explicit terms previously. He just basically was stuck in a rut cognitively and was able to produce these films which were sufficiently interesting for a reasonable period of time, and then he just tried to milk them as much as possible, doing slight changes, doing re-releases. I mean, obviously the toys and all the other stuff were there in terms of the general merchandising, but in terms of telling a story, now having seen J.J. Abrams' interpretation, I think this is an amazing thing. I'm not particularly obsessed with it. I'll go and see it again if I have the opportunity to. I didn't go see it in the first 2 weeks it was out. I was trying to get in on Christmas Day. It was completely and utterly sold out. In terms of plot, in terms of narrative, in terms of general things that I might be more seriously critiquing films on, I'm not particularly fussed. It's a Star Wars movie, you know? It's about swashbuckling people with very loosely defined plots in some regard. They're all family. It's like a mobster movie in that regard. But, I don't know. I guess I have relatively low expectations, and J.J. Abrams just moved it forward a little bit. Left something that was actually quite interesting to go and see. And I didn't feel like I'd wasted my time, and I've seen plenty of films recently where I feel like I've wasted my time, and that's why I'm not talking about them in short fun. But in terms of Star Wars as a franchise, I think this thing has legs. Could go in a variety of different directions. I'm really not a fan of the First Order. I think that seems a bit like New Order. You know, that whole... How does it feel to treat me like you do? Well, that was a great song in its day, but, you know, I want electronic drums and stuff when I hear about the First Order. It was badly named. Kind of a homage, perhaps, to George Lucas. I'm sure that's the last thing that he required in the contract was, you know, the baddies have to be called the First Order. They're basically the Empire. There's nothing changed. They're still in the same uniforms. They've still got the same fighter planes. They're not really any different. I mean, you know, paint them green. How about like a fluorescent green? Now that would be different, right? It'd be like, oh, we've learnt from the Empire. We're not going to try and do this stuff again. I don't know. So that aspect of the plot didn't have me too happy. But everything else was a Star Wars movie. I mean, you know, it was better than many of them, many in the recent past. So, yeah, I wasn't fussed by it. I quite liked it. Star Wars nerd, more so than Star Trek nerd, but really not into any of that kind of stuff. Just fills in the gap between sleeps, really. Tom Barbalet in San Jose, signing out. Now